10 things you can only see under a microscope. Our world is full of amazing things, but we often forget to appreciate the everyday things around us. Have you ever thought about what tiny things look like? Like, do cells look cute, or can an ant resemble an elephant? You've probably heard about bacteria in our food and tiny creatures in water, but have you ever actually seen them? Looking at these everyday things through a microscope can change how you see the world. It's like taking a break from our busy, chaotic lives and seeing things in a new way, even if it's just for a short time. In this video, we have put together a list of exciting things you can only check out under a microscope. Even though they might seem strange and unexciting at first, once you zoom in, they'll be a treat for your eyes and give you a surprising new view of something very ordinary. Number 10. Yeast cells. Yeast cells, those incredibly tiny living things responsible for the magic of bread swelling up and the wonders of fermentation, are like a secret world that can only be seen up close with a special microscope. These super small things are invisible to our eyes, but when we make them look more prominent with a microscope, we can see how they look and act. Under the microscope, yeast cells look like little ovals. They have tiny holes on their surfaces that make them kind of look like the moon's surface. This gives us a clue about how they work. When they make more of themselves, they have baby cells that start as tiny bumps. These baby cells grow and then break away to be on their own. When we study yeast cells with a microscope, we can learn about how baking, making drinks like beer, and chemistry work. We get to peek into the world of how cells breathe, taking in sugars and making carbon dioxide and alcohol. This is what makes bread light and fluffy, and what gives beer and other drinks their special kick. Number 9. Water bear. Water bears, also called tardigrades, are like stars in science class. They're so good at living in challenging places that students all over the world are amazed by them. Even though they're tiny, they can handle tough situations like super hot or cold temperatures, intense radiation, drying out, and being in places with low pressure. They have 8 legs with cool claws on them, between 4 and 8 on each leg. You can watch them move slowly in water under a microscope. It's fascinating. Scientists say they're almost impossible to destroy and can even stay alive in space. You can find water bears in many spots, like moss, ferns, lichens, soil, beaches, and sand dunes. If you go hiking, bring some simple tools, and you might find these creatures. Number 8. Peacock feathers. Famous for its beautiful feathers, Peacock has a hidden secret that only shows up when you look at it really closely with a special tool. Even though we can see its colorful feathers with our eyes, there's something even more amazing that we can only see with a microscope. When we make the feathers look bigger with the microscope, they change in a magical way and show a wonderful pattern. Each tiny feather has its own very small parts like little barbules, hooks, and little pigments. These parts all work together to make the pretty colors we see. These tiny things create the shiny look that makes people stare from far away. What we see as one color when we're far away is actually made up of many tiny parts that play with light in really cool ways. These fragile parts, which look like thin tree branches or patterns, are what make the peacock look so captivating. Number 7. Pond water microorganism. In a drop of pond water, there are many fascinating things to observe. It's like a whole world out there. We can split the microorganisms in pond water into 2 groups, protozoa and protophyta. Algae make up most of the plant-like life in ponds and come in many shapes. Some algae look like green threads attached to rocks, while others are single cells that float around. Some large algae, like the giant kelp, can even grow up to 100 feet long. Many algae have chloroplasts, which help them use sunlight for energy. In pond water, there are also tiny animals that can't be seen without a microscope. They could be single-celled organisms like paramecium, micropredators like rotifers, Vorticella, stentors, or tiny crustaceans called daphnia. When you're near ponds, creeks, rivers, or lakes, be cautious. You can use a special slide with a dip in the middle to hold some water for observing these tiny wonders. Number 6. Salt, sugar, and pepper. Imagine looking at tiny grains of salt, sugar, and pepper through a super powerful microscope. You be in for a surprise. These ordinary things we use in our food have a secret world that only becomes visible under the microscope. Salt, which looks like small crystals to the naked eye, transforms into complex shapes that resemble snowflakes or fancy geometric patterns. Sugar, on the other hand, takes on different forms that look like little pieces of art with uneven edges and unique designs. Pepper, with its dark color, turns into a bunch of tiny balls, each one covered in tiny bumps and lines. Taking a closer look at these everyday items reminds us that there's more to them than meets the eye. It's like discovering a whole new world within the familiar things we use in our kitchen. This kind of exploration shows us that even the simplest things can be amazingly complex and interesting when you look at them in a different way. Number 5. Soap foam. Soap foam transforms into a captivating sight when magnified under a microscope. To begin this enchanting journey, gather various types of soap, like dishwasher and laundry detergents. Mix these in a jar filled with water, placing it on a lid and shaking vigorously. This method creates finer foam. Afterward, use a dropper or your fingertip to place some of this foam onto a microscope slide. Place a cover slip over the foam. As you look through the microscope, a world of delicate beauty reveals itself. The foam consists of bubbles that display incredible movement. These fragile bubbles have a natural instability that leads to fascinating actions. Some bubbles move purposefully, while others collide and merge into bigger ones. Amid this intricate dance, some bubbles quickly burst. But the magic doesn't end there. Changing the soap-to-water ratio brings out a variety of bubble shapes. Each adjustment reveals a completely new set of bubble structures and movements. This shows the fine balance between science and art, providing an exciting peek into the small wonders of the soap foam world. Number 4. Ball pen. Examining a ballpoint pen through a microscope might sound strange, but it's a captivating way to uncover hidden wonders invisible to the naked eye. The tip of a ballpoint pen, often overlooked, is an extraordinary feat of engineering. Under the microscope's lens, you'll witness the intricate ball bearing that twirls when you write, releasing ink onto the paper. This ingenious mechanism ensures the pen writes smoothly, a wonder we seldom ponder as we jot things down. You'll witness the ink's composition, its graceful diffusion on paper, and the complex layers of pigments staging the pen's hue. Grasping these elements enhances our admiration for the technology woven into commonplace objects. Besides, investigating the pen's casing materials and textures unveils insights into its creation. You might spot imperceptible flaws. Number 3. Onion skin. The onion skin boasts a special layer of protective cells on its surface. Number 1. Human skin. Our skin, the body's largest organ, is made up of different layers, each with its own unique role. The outermost layer, called the epidermis, acts as a protective shield against external factors. It consists of cells that continually renew themselves, and when viewed under magnification, these cells look like closely packed scales. Beneath the epidermis, we find the dermis, which is a network of collagen and elastin fibers, providing both support and flexibility. This layer is also home to blood vessels, nerve endings, and hair follicles. With a closer look, we can see these components and understand how they work together. Moreover, looking at the skin through a microscope can reveal valuable information about various skin disorders and conditions. Conditions like acne, psoriasis, and even melanoma can be studied by analyzing tiny skin samples. This detailed examination helps doctors and researchers identify irregularities at a cellular level, assisting in accurate diagnosis and effective treatment planning. Were you already aware of these interesting facts? If so, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to stay connected with us for our upcoming videos, where we'll continue to explore more that are sure to pique your curiosity.